So the next command that I'm going to put in is our first delve command that we're going to use. So let me add debug command here, and I'll sync that up. And I'll exit out of this other terminal temporarily. So before we execute this command, I want to talk about it really quick. So this is the first delve command that we're going to be introduced to. So if you've never used delve before, I'll talk about it, what this command does, and some of the things that it's doing behind the scenes. So DLV debug will start a debug session for you, and it's one of the few ways that you can start a debug session using the delve debugger. But this one is kind of special. So what it does is, with just a single command, delve will compile your program for you, and it will compile it in such a way where we disable optimizations and some other things that can make debugging a little bit more difficult. And I'll actually dig into that a little bit more and talk about that before we move on to the container aspect, because it's also important and relevant for when you're building your programs to be run in containers if you want to debug them. So it compiles your program, passes along some flags to disable some optimizations. And if you're not familiar, the Go toolchain, the Go compiler by default will enable optimizations for you, such as function inlining and different things like that. We disable them because some of those optimizations can confuse users and sometimes debugging tools when it comes to trying to debug that binary. And again, we'll look into that in greater detail in just a second. But after compiling your program, it will execute that program and attach the debugger to it and start a debug session for you. So the nice thing about this command is, with just running one command, a lot of things are happening behind the scenes, but you don't have to worry about that. It gets you from 0 to an active debug session with the lowest amount of friction. And that's kind of the philosophy of delve and debugging in general, right? Like, if you're debugging, things aren't going your way already. And so you want your tools to stay out of your way, and you want your tools to facilitate getting to that root cause analysis as quickly as possible. And this is one of the ways that I think we can achieve that. So without kind of any more delay, let's go ahead and run our make debug command. So as I mentioned, we're going ahead and we compiled that program, we ran it, and now we are at an active debug session. And at this point, we are literally at like the very first instruction of your Go binary. So we're not even at the point of executing main or any init functions or anything like that. We stopped the program, quite literally at the first few startup instructions.